Police lights flooded the sidewalk in harsh blue and red, washing over the polished glass of a downtown plaza where a charity gala hummed behind closed doors. Inside, crystal glasses clinked. Outside, rain hissed against hot asphalt. Near the entrance, a white man staggered, laughing too loud, arguing with security. He shoved his wallet forward. One guard sighed and waved him off. "Just get a cab." 10 seconds later, the manager's voice snapped through the radio. "Hold up, the guy by the bike rack. He's been hanging around too long." The officers turned, not toward the drunk man, toward the father. "Sir, step away from the child." The little girl's hand tightened around her dad's fingers. Her voice came out small, honest, confused. "Daddy, why didn't they stop that man?" No one answered her. An officer demanded ID. Another already keyed his mic. "Dispatch, possible suspect." "Need backup, what's the description?" Dispatch asked. A pause, static, no answer. The father handed over his license. The officer glanced at the address, then at the girl's worn shoes. His jaw set. Close enough for what he didn't say. A woman in the crowd shook her head. "Figures," she muttered, eyes never leaving the father's skin. Rain slid down the patrol car windows. A phone lifted higher this time, its red recording dot steady. The drunk man stumbled past the frame, untouched, laughing into the night. The father knelt, blocking his daughter from the officer's boots. He pressed a small, scuffed leather token into her palm, his breath shaking once before he steadied it. "Hold this," he whispered, "no matter what." She swallowed hard, then said, "Not afraid yet, just learning." "So why did they look at you like that and not him?" Across the street, the camera kept rolling as dispatch finally replied, confused and clear. "Unit, confirm we have no report from that location." The officers didn't answer, and in that silence something irreversible had already begun. Morning didn't erase the night, it just changed the lighting. Gray daylight slid between buildings as Marcus Reed walked his daughter to school. The sidewalk was still damp, the smell of rain clinging to concrete and rusted railings. A patrol car idled at the corner longer than it needed to. The engine hummed. Marcus felt it before he saw it. The slow crawl, the pause, the way eyes lingered. Ava noticed too. "They're still looking," she said quietly, fingers threading into his sleeve. The car rolled on, too slow to be coincidence. Too fast to be conversation. "They're just driving," Marcus said, careful with the words. Not because he believed them fully, but because she needed something steady to step on. At the school gate, a security guard stood straighter when Marcus approached. His hand rested on his radio, thumb brushing the button without pressing it. Two white parents passed through behind them, waved in with smiles and first names. The guard glanced at Marcus's ID longer than necessary, then at Ava's backpack, then back at Marcus's face. "You can go," he said finally. No apology, no warmth. Ava turned once before heading inside. "Dad, did they do that because of last night?" Marcus nodded once. "Honest." "Yes." She absorbed that in silence and walked away slower than usual, shoulders tight, childhood folding in on itself just a little. Marcus worked nights at the city maintenance depot, fixing buses and street cleaners the public never thought about unless they stopped working. The depot smelled like oil and heat and old coffee. It was loud enough to drown out most thoughts, not all. When he clocked in, the supervisor handed him a clipboard without meeting his eyes. "Internal review might ask questions," the man said. "About incidents." "What incidents?" Marcus asked. The supervisor shrugged. "You know how it goes." Marcus did know. He'd learned a long time ago how questions could be shaped before they were asked. During break, a coworker scrolled through his phone and snorted. "Man, they got video of some guy last night, acting all heroic like he didn't do anything." Marcus kept his head down. The room buzzed with fluorescent light. No one looked at him, but the space around him widened anyway. At pickup that afternoon, Ava came out quiet. A teacher stopped Marcus before they left. "She's been distracted," the woman said, folding her hands. She asked if police come to classrooms. Marcus felt the air thin. "Did she do something wrong?" "No," the teacher said quickly. Then softer, "She just wanted to know who keeps people safe." Marcus thanked her and walked away, Ava's hand heavy in his. At home, the apartment felt smaller. Sirens stitched the evening together outside. Ava spread her homework across the table, the leather token placed carefully beside her pencil like a shield. "Dad," she said, not looking up, "are we going to get in trouble again for nothing?" The word nothing sat between them. Marcus leaned against the counter, the hum of the fridge filling the pause. "We didn't do anything wrong last night," he said, "and we didn't today." She nodded, then asked the question she'd been holding. "Then why does it keep happening to us?" There it was, not abstract, not softened. Marcus sat across from her. The chair creaked. Because some systems decide things about people before they listen, he said, and they don't always fix themselves. Ava traced the edge of the leather token. Because you're black, yes, Marcus said. He didn't look away. That night after Ava slept, Marcus stood by the window again. A police cruiser passed, headlights cutting across the floor. The light caught the token in his hand and pulled him backward in time. He had worn a different badge once, one that came with trust until it didn't. Years ago, in a transit tunnel during a power failure, Marcus had moved first. Smoke burned the throat. Panic pressed bodies together. He guided people out, gave his mask to a woman whose child couldn't breathe. Cameras caught him doing it. What they didn't catch was the aftermath. When reports were written, blame looked for a shape it could settle on. Supervisors used phrases like optics and public comfort. One said it plainly, behind closed doors. You fit the narrative, the man told him. This ends cleaner if it's you. A white officer who'd frozen in the tunnel kept his job. A contractor who'd ignored safety protocols kept his contract. Marcus was offered quiet resignation, no hearing, no record. He took it because the woman he'd carried out would keep her insurance, because her child would live, because pushing back would make him the problem instead of the failure. That was the sacrifice. Chosen, buried. Now standing in his kitchen, sirens echoing faintly, Marcus understood the pattern hadn't changed. It had just found him again. He placed the leather token back on the table, exactly where Ava would find it in the morning. The city hadn't forgotten him, and this time it had brought witnesses. The incident didn't begin with shouting. It began with heat. A late summer evening pressed down on the city, heavy and unmoving. The sidewalk outside the riverfront market shimmered under yellow streetlights, oil stains glowing faintly like bruises. Traffic crawled. Somewhere, music leaked from an open car window and died at the red light. Marcus had just finished his shift. His shoulders ached the way they always did when he worked overtime, the kind of ache that settled deep and stayed. Ava walked beside him, counting steps between cracks, the leather token looped through her backpack zipper like a quiet guardian. Inside the market, cold air rushed over them. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The place was crowded, office workers grabbing dinner, teenagers hovering near the freezers, a security guard posted near the entrance with his arms crossed. Marcus noticed the guard noticed them, not openly, not dramatically, just the way his posture stiffened, the way his gaze followed Marcus instead of the two white boys slipping candy bars into their hoodie pockets near aisle 5. Ava tugged Marcus's sleeve. Dad, she whispered, eyes wide but curious, that man keeps looking at you. Marcus reached for a basket. Focus on the list, he said gently. They were halfway down the aisle when it happened. A sharp cry cut through the hum of refrigeration units. Help someone please. A woman stumbled near the produce section, her knee buckling. A toddler slipped from her arms, hitting the floor hard enough to make the sound echo. The child didn't cry right away. He just lay there, stunned, eyes unfocused. For a split second, no one moved. Then Marcus did. He dropped the basket and crossed the aisle in 3 strides, kneeling, shielding the child instinctively from swinging carts and startled feet. He spoke softly, voice low and steady, the way he always did when Ava scraped her knees. It's okay, he murmured. I've got you. The child began to cry, loud, furious, alive. The sound cut through the store like relief. The mother collapsed against a display, shaking. I got dizzy, she said, words tangling. I didn't. Marcus checked the child quickly, hands sure, eyes scanning. No blood, just fear. Ava stood frozen a few steps back. Daddy, she called. I'm here, Marcus said, not looking away from the child. Stay right there. The security guard finally moved, but not toward the woman or the child, toward Marcus. Hey, the guard barked. Step away from the kid. Marcus looked up slowly. He fell, he said. I'm just, step back, the guard repeated, hand lifting toward his radio. The mother turned, panic sharpening into anger. No, he helped us. The guard ignored her. Shoppers had started filming. Someone whispered, what's going on? Another voice answered too quickly. I don't know, but the guard spoke into his radio. Possible incident, need police. Ava's breath hitched. She ran forward before Marcus could stop her, gripping his arm. He didn't do anything, she said, voice breaking through the noise. That's my dad. The guard glanced down at her, then back at Marcus. His jaw tightened. Sir, stand up. Hands where I can see them. Marcus rose slowly, palms open, the child now safely back in his mother's arms. The cold air felt thinner. Within minutes, police lights painted the windows blue and red. 2 officers entered. One scanned the room, the other locked onto Marcus immediately. What happened? The taller one asked. The guard pointed. He grabbed a kid. I fell, the mother said sharply. My son fell, he helped. The officer barely looked at her. "Sir," he said to Marcus, "turn around." A man near the freezer muttered, "Here we go." Ava's voice tightened, confusion edging in where certainty had been. "Daddy, please don't go." Marcus lowered himself to her height briefly, hands still visible. "Listen to me," he said softly. "You did nothing wrong, okay?" She nodded, tears spilling despite herself. The officers asked for ID. Marcus handed it over. One officer glanced at it, then at his partner. Something unspoken passed between them. "Dispatch," the shorter officer said into his mic. "We've got a male, Fitz." "Fitz what?" the mother demanded. He stopped himself. "Fits the situation." The white teenagers slipped past the officers, candy bars still bulging in their pockets. No one stopped them. Backup arrived anyway. The store manager appeared, flustered, apologetic, but only to the officers. "We just can't take chances," she said, eyes sliding past Marcus as if he were already part of the floor. Ava clutched Marcus's jacket, voice small, scared in a way it hadn't been the night before. "Are they taking you because you helped?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He met the officer's eyes instead. "I saved time," he said evenly. "That's all." A phone rang somewhere. Another camera rose higher. The mother stepped forward again, louder now. "If you arrest him," she said, shaking, "you're arresting the only person who acted." The officers hesitated. Dispatch crackled. "Unit, confirm incident report. We have no complaint on file." Silence. The guard shifted, uncertain now. The manager's face drained of color. People started murmuring, not defensively, not aggressively, just noticing. The wrongness crept in. An officer cleared his throat. "Sir," he said stiffly, handing back the ID, "you're free to go. No apology." "Just release." Marcus took Ava's hand and walked out, legs steady, heart loud. The doors slid shut behind them. Outside, the city exhaled. Sirens faded. Ava leaned into him, crying freely now. "I was so scared," she said. "I know," Marcus whispered, holding her. "I know." Across the street, the phone camera kept recording, catching the guard's silence, the mother's trembling gratitude, the officer's retreat. By morning, millions would see it. And no one would be able to say they didn't know. By morning, the video had outrun the truth. Marcus woke to the sound of his phone vibrating itself off the nightstand. The room was still gray, the city not fully awake yet. Ava slept curled on her side, the leather token tucked under her pillow like it could stand guard while she dreamed. The screen lit up with notifications, messages from unknown numbers, missed calls, headlines that hadn't learned how to be careful. Good Samaritan or convenient story. Market incident sparks debate. Online police say no wrongdoing. Internet disagrees. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed and felt the familiar tightening in his chest. Not fear exactly. Recognition. At school drop-off, the security guard wasn't there. A different one stood instead, polite to the point of stiffness. Parents whispered more openly now. Some smiled too brightly. Others didn't look at him at all. Ava squeezed his hand. "They're staring again." "Yes," Marcus said, "but they're not all thinking the same thing." She frowned. "How do you know?" "Because silence sounds different when people are unsure." At work, the depot buzzed in a way it never had. Screens were pulled up, phones passed between hands. Marcus felt the glances before he caught them. "That's you, right?" a coworker asked, not unkindly. "Man, you're everywhere." Another laughed. "Guess being a hero finally pays off." Marcus clocked in without answering. By lunch, the supervisor called him into the office. The door closed softly, too softly. "We've been contacted," the man said. Folding his hands like this was about policy. "Media, advocacy groups, the department." "And," Marcus asked, "they want a statement from you." Marcus thought of Ava's face in the store. The way fear had found her voice. "I don't want her name anywhere," he said. The supervisor hesitated. "That may not be possible." When Marcus picked Ava up that afternoon, she was quiet again, not withdrawn, processing. A boy had asked her if her dad was that guy from the video. A teacher had told the class they'd be discussing current events next week. At home, the TV murmured constantly. Pundits argued. Clips replayed without sound. The image of Marcus kneeling looping like it was a test people kept failing. One channel slowed the footage, circling his hands with red lines. Another cropped out the mother entirely. A commentator smiled and said, "We don't know the full story." Ava sat cross-legged on the floor, watching. "Why do they keep stopping it there?" she asked, pointing to the screen just before the officers stepped back. Marcus muted the TV, because the ending doesn't fit what some people want to believe. That night, a reporter showed up downstairs, then another. Someone slipped a note under the door with a number, and the words, "We can help you control the narrative." Control? Marcus folded the paper and dropped it in the trash. The pressure built in quieter ways too. A letter from the market's corporate office arrived. carefully worded, apologizing if any discomfort was experienced, while also stating that their security protocols were under review. No mention of bias. No acknowledgement of harm. Police issued a brief statement. Officers acted within procedure. No charges filed. Procedure. Again, the drunk man from the earlier night never appeared in any report. No one asked why. Ava climbed into Marcus's bed sometime after midnight, the way she had when her mother died. "Dad," she said into his shoulder, voice low, braver than it should have had to be, "are you going to tell them what really happened?" Marcus stared at the ceiling, streetlight flickering like a pulse. This was the choice. He could feel it settle into place. If he stayed silent, the noise would fade. The video would cycle out. Ava would be spared being a symbol. If he spoke, the past would surface. The tunnel, the resignation, the pattern. "They'll come after you," Ava said, not guessing. "Yes," Marcus said. She lifted her head, eyes searching his face. "But if you don't, they'll do it again, to someone else." Marcus closed his eyes. A breath slipped out of him, slow and heavy. The next morning, he said yes. The press conference wasn't grand, just a community center gym with bad acoustics and folding chairs. Cameras lined the back wall anyway. The hum of equipment filled the air. Marcus stood at the podium alone. No lawyer, no spokesperson. "I'm not here to be called a hero," he said, voice steady. "I'm here because what happened wasn't a misunderstanding." Questions flew. "Do you think this was racism? Why didn't you comply sooner? Are you anti-police?" Marcus answered only what mattered. "This wasn't about one guard or two officers," he said. "It was about who gets questioned first. Who gets believed, who gets protected." A murmur rippled through the room. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse individuals. He named systems. Outside, reactions split fast. Some called him brave. Others called him dangerous. Old records surfaced. His resignation. The tunnel incident. Commentators smirked. "Interesting history," one said. "Makes you wonder." Marcus watched none of it. Ava came home from school with a note folded carefully in her hand. "They moved me out of the discussion group," she said. "The teacher said it was to keep things calm." Marcus knelt in front of her. "How did that make you feel? Like they wanted the story without me in it?" That night they ate quietly. Sirens passed, phones buzzed unanswered. The city argued. The market placed the guard on paid leave. The manager resigned for personal reasons. No admission, no apology. Police announced an internal review. No timeline. It would have been easy to feel like nothing had changed. But on the street below, someone taped a sign to the lamppost. "We saw what you did, not just the rescue. The restraint, the refusal to disappear." Marcus stood at the window with Ava beside him. The leather token rested between them on the sill. "Dad," she said, softer now, steadier, "even if they don't fix it, I'm glad you didn't stay quiet." Marcus nodded. His chest ached in a different way. Sometimes fallout wasn't destruction. Sometimes it was exposure. And once exposed, some things couldn't be hidden again. The revelation didn't arrive with sirens or breaking news banners. It arrived as paperwork. 3 days after the press conference, a woman named Alina Hart requested an interview. She wasn't a television personality or a social media activist. She was the editor-in-chief of the Ledger, a publication known less for speed than for consequence. When she spoke, people listened because she rarely spoke twice about the same thing. Marcus almost said no. Alina didn't push. She sent an email instead. One sentence. "I believe the incident at Riverfront Market is connected to a closed transit investigation from 7 years ago." Marcus stared at the screen for a long time. The interview took place in a quiet conference room with windows that looked out on the river. No cameras, just a recorder placed carefully between them, its red light steady and patient. Alina didn't start with the market. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents Marcus hadn't seen since the night he signed them away. Internal memos, redacted emails, a resignation letter stamped voluntary in ink that had never felt honest. "You were the only responder disciplined after the tunnel evacuation," Alina said calmly, "despite multiple eyewitnesses crediting you with saving lives." Marcus didn't speak. "The review board notes mention public confidence concerns," she continued. "That phrase appears again and again, always next to your name, never next to anyone else's." Marcus leaned back, the chair creaking under the weight of memory. Alina looked at him then, not as a subject, but as a witness. "They needed someone to carry the failure," she said, "and you were convenient." The word landed where it always had. "What changed?" Marcus asked quietly. Alina opened a second folder. "The video from the market," she said. "It didn't just go viral, it went to places it usually doesn't. Legal offices, risk departments, insurance boards." She turned the page. "Someone recognized you." not as a suspect, as a pattern. A former transit engineer, White, retired, had contacted the Ledger after seeing the clip. He'd been on duty the night of the tunnel incident. He remembered arguing with supervisors about the report. He told us the truth didn't disappear, Elena said. It was filed, buried, but not destroyed. Marcus felt something in his chest shift, not relief, not anger. Something closer to gravity letting go. Elena leaned forward. I need you to confirm one thing. Off the record for now. Did they offer you a deal? Marcus nodded once. They said if I took the blame, the woman I pulled out wouldn't lose her job. Her son would keep his coverage. And you agreed? Yes. Why? Marcus looked out the window. The river moved steadily, indifferent to how long it had taken him to answer this question. Because saving them once wasn't enough, he said. I had to keep them safe afterward. Elena didn't speak for a moment. When she did, her voice was lower. That's not how the story was told. No, Marcus said. It never is. The article dropped 48 hours later, not as an opinion piece, not as a profile, as an investigation. The man THUI silenced and WHY. It laid everything out. The tunnel, the forced resignation, the language used internally, optics, narrative alignment, community comfort. The market incident wasn't framed as an anomaly, but as confirmation. Evidence replaced argument. Documents replaced debate. By noon, officials were responding instead of speaking. The Transit Authority announced an emergency review. The police department placed 2 officers on administrative leave pending investigation into pattern-based enforcement. The market's parent company released a statement using the word bias for the first time. Ava came home early that day, school dismissed early out of caution. She burst through the apartment door, breathless, holding a printed article like it was fragile. They put your picture, she said, eyes wide, not the video. A real picture. Marcus took the paper. The photo showed him older than he felt, tired, unhidden. They said you saved people, Ava said. Her voice changed on the word, firmer, proud. They said you were right, Marcus swallowed. They didn't say hero, she added quickly, as if correcting the world. They said witness. That night, the city reacted differently. People didn't argue as much. They read. Commentators fell quiet when facts replaced speculation. At a city council meeting, a councilwoman paused mid-sentence, papers shaking slightly in her hands. We owe Mr. Reed, she said finally, more than an apology. The officers from the market declined interviews. The security guard resigned. Ava watched the news with Marcus, curled against his side. The leather token lay on the table, untouched. Dad, she said after a long silence, does this mean they believe you now? Marcus thought about it. About how belief worked. It means, he said slowly, they can't pretend they don't. She nodded, satisfied in a way only children could be, direct, unburdened by footnotes. The next morning, a letter arrived from the Transit Authority. Formal, official, they acknowledged procedural failures. They restored Marcus's record, quietly but completely. At the bottom of the page was a single line, we regret the harm caused. No flourish, no absolution. Marcus folded the letter and placed it beside the leather token. Later that week, Elena called again. One more thing, she said. The woman from the tunnel, the one you protected. She wants to meet you. The meeting took place in a park under open sky. The woman arrived with her son, taller now, healthy, unaware of how close his life had once come to narrowing. She cried when she saw Marcus. He didn't. She tried to apologize. He stopped her gently. You don't owe me anything, he said. You were the reason. As they parted, Ava watched them walk away, then looked up at her father with eyes that held something new, not fear, not confusion. Understanding, you didn't tell them, she said. Back then, you let them blame you, Marcus nodded, because you thought that was fair. No, he corrected softly, because it was necessary. Ava considered this, then smiled, the kind of smile that rearranged something inside him. I'm glad they know now, she said, but I'm more glad you're my dad. Marcus laughed quietly then, not because it was funny, because it was release. Outside, the city moved differently, not healed, but awake. And once awake, it would never quite be able to sleep the same way again. Change didn't arrive all at once. It came in increments, measured, imperfect, undeniable. Marcus returned to work on a Monday that felt no different on the surface. The depot still smelled of oil and overheated metal. The fluorescent lights still flickered like they were thinking about quitting, but something had shifted in the way people moved around him. Conversations didn't stop when he entered a room anymore. They slowed, then continued. The supervisor met him near the lockers, holding a clipboard like it might apologize on his behalf. Your file's been corrected, he said. Back pays processing. Title reinstated if you want it. Marcus considered the word reinstated. He shook his head gently. I'll stay where I am. The supervisor nodded, relieved. Authority liked humility. Marcus understood that now more clearly than ever. At school, things changed more visibly. The security guard no longer reached for his radio when Marcus arrived. He nodded instead. Not warm, not cold, correct. Ava's teacher pulled Marcus aside one afternoon. We're revising how we talk about current events, she said, and who gets to be centered in them. Ava walked out smiling, backpack swinging. They asked me if I wanted to help, she said. Not just watch. That night, Marcus cooked while Ava did homework at the table. The leather token lay beside her books, no longer treated like a shield, just a familiar thing, something that had done its job. On the news, the market chain announced sweeping policy changes. Body cameras for security, bias training tied to performance reviews. 2 executives stepped down quietly the same day. No speeches, no redemption arcs. Just absence. The officers involved faced formal discipline. One transferred departments, another resigned. The system didn't collapse. It adjusted slowly, reluctantly, but it moved. The drunk man from that first night was finally mentioned in a report. A footnote. Late, inconvenient. Marcus noticed something else too. The phone stopped ringing as much. The spotlight shifted. That was fine. He had never wanted it. One evening, Alina Hart stopped by the apartment. No recorder this time, just coffee and conversation. She handed Marcus a slim envelope. Community board, she said. They're forming an oversight committee. They want you. Marcus didn't open it right away. I'm not a symbol, he said. Alina smiled faintly. No, you're a witness. That's why they're asking. Marcus thought about Ava, about the questions she'd asked. About the ones she no longer whispered. I'll think about it, he said. That weekend, Marcus took Ava to the river. The water reflected the sky in broken pieces. Gulls cried overhead. The city felt quieter here. Ava skipped stones while Marcus sat on a bench, the leather token warm in his pocket. He took it out, turning it over one last time. You don't need this anymore, Ava said, not looking back. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You sure? She nodded. It did what it was supposed to do. He smiled. He set the token on the bench between them, then stood. When they walked away, he didn't look back. Weeks passed. The Oversight Committee met for the first time in a municipal room with bad chairs and worse acoustics. Marcus took a seat near the back. He listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, it wasn't dramatic. He asked simple questions. Why was backup called? Who decides what suspicious means? What happens when the report doesn't match the video? The room shifted each time. Discomfort settled where certainty used to be. At home, Ava taped a new drawing to the refrigerator. It showed 2 figures holding hands under flashing lights. Above them, she'd written a sentence in careful letters. Brave people don't disappear. Marcus stood there longer than necessary. One afternoon, months later, Marcus and Ava walked past the riverfront market. The windows were brighter now. A new sign hung near the entrance. If you need help, ask. Ava read it aloud. Do you think they mean it? Marcus watched people come and go, different faces, different colors. One guard knew helped an elderly man with his bags. No one stared. I think, Marcus said, they know they're being watched. She smiled. Good. As they walked on, a man approached Marcus hesitantly. Excuse me, he said. You're him, right? Marcus nodded once. The man swallowed. I didn't say anything that night. I should have. Marcus studied his face, saw regret, fear. Something learning. You're saying something now, Marcus said. That matters. The man exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. That evening, as Ava got ready for bed, she paused at the doorway. Dad, she said, when I grow up, if I see something wrong. Marcus looked up. I won't look away, she finished, even if it's easier. Marcus felt his throat tighten. He nodded, trusting his voice would come back later. After she slept, Marcus stood by the window one last time. The city lights blinked steadily. No sirens, just distance and possibility. He thought about the night in the tunnel, about the store, about the long silence between those moments. He hadn't been loud, he hadn't been celebrated, but he had been consistent. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, Marcus turned off the light and went to bed. True heroes lived quietly among us. And sometimes, quietly was enough to change the direction of things. Morning came gently this time. Sunlight spilled through the apartment window in soft bands, warming the kitchen tiles where Ava sat cross-legged, laughing at something on the radio. The city sounded different in daylight, less defensive, more honest. Buses sighed at the corner. A dog barked once, then settled. Marcus poured coffee and leaned against the counter, watching his daughter braid her hair with careful concentration. She no longer flinched at every siren. She still noticed them, but noticing had changed shape. "Dad," she said suddenly, not looking up, "do you remember the night everyone was watching?" Marcus nodded. He always would. "That was when everything started moving," she said thoughtfully, "even if we didn't know it yet." He smiled. Children had a way of naming truth without ceremony. They walked to school together, passing the same plaza, the same market, the same street corner where blue and red once filled the air. A delivery truck idled. A guard held the door open for a woman juggling groceries. No one stared. As they crossed the street, a phone buzzed in Marcus's pocket. A message from the Oversight Committee, an agenda, a reminder, work still unfinished. He silenced it without resentment. At the school gate, Ava turned to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. She held him tighter than usual. "I'm not scared anymore," she said quietly. Not like before. Marcus felt the weight of that sentence. He kissed the top of her head, breathing her in, grounding himself in the ordinary miracle of it. "I know," he said. "That's how I can tell we did something right." She stepped back, grinned, and ran inside without looking over her shoulder. Marcus stood there a moment longer. Sunlight warmed his face. The city moved. People passed him without knowing his name, his history, or the cost of his silence. And that was fine. Across the street, a man paused, squinting as if trying to place him. Marcus met his eyes, nodded once, and kept walking. Somewhere a camera clicked. Somewhere else it didn't. The moment that once felt like the beginning of an ending had become something else entirely. A hinge, quietly holding open a door that might not close again. Marcus walked on, hands in his pockets, unremarkable and unhidden, because this was the part people rarely filmed, the part where life continued. And years from now, when someone asked where change began, they wouldn't point to the noise or the outrage or even the video. They would point to a quiet night, a child's question, and a man who stood still long enough for the truth to catch up. The same moment everyone would replay later. Only now, they finally understood why it mattered.